What's up, everybody? It's the Common Sense Investor coming at you with another video. In this video, I want to talk about AMC, Romeo and Juliet. And you're probably going to sit there and think, how in the world are you going to connect Romeo and Juliet to AMC? Other than the fact that they're theaters, okay? But you're going to understand before this video is over with what I'm trying to say and what I have said. Now, let's talk about Romeo and Juliet. When I was in college, psychology class, we had to do a paper on the psyche of relationships, okay? And I thought to myself, I was on a Shakespearean kick at the time, to be or not to be, and Hamlet seeing his dad's ghost, and all these wonderful things that I could pick from to discuss the human psyche for the class that I took. And I read Romeo and Juliet. And when I read Romeo and Juliet, I was like, the fuck people been talking about all this time? Romeo and Juliet, yeah, you could say they loved one another, but the story itself had nothing to do with love. And you say, wait a minute, CSI. From 1303, when Shakespeare wrote the story, everybody sees Romeo and Juliet as two star-crossed lovers who can't live without each other. Their families hate each other, and so one hatches a plan with the preacher to drink some poison, fake her death, and then when she woke up from the poison, her and Romeo would go live happily ever after together. Problem is, when she woke up from the poison, she realized that Romeo had killed himself. So then she takes her own life. Now, that's the end of the story. It's not the beginning of the story. The beginning of the story goes like this. Fact check me if you think I'm wrong. Romeo's cousin comes home, and when he walks in the door, he sees Romeo laid out. Like, bitch, what's wrong with you? Romeo says, oh, I can't live without Martha. Martha's left me, and I'm gonna die. And his cousin's like, are you stupid, man? That's just another fucking woman. And no, I can't live without fucking Martha, whatever her name was, I don't remember. But Martha is the only person in the whole wide world for me, and I'm just going to die from a broken heart. And I like Romeo's cousin in the story, because Romeo's like, man, bullshit, get dressed. Get dressed, we going out. And before the end of the night, your mind won't be on that hoe. I promise you. So, he don't want to do it, but his cousin talks him into it. They go to a party. And at the party, Romeo sees this really, really hot chick. And he's like, damn, who is that? So the cousin sees his opportunity. And he says, oh, that's Juliet. Whatever her last name was. And he says, I got to meet her. All of a sudden, Martha's out the picture. He's got to meet Juliet. And now Juliet's on the other side of the room, and she's looking around, and she sees this guy that she's never met before staring at her. And she looks at her cousin, and she goes, who is that? I said, who is that? Oh, don't look over there. That's Romeo, whatever his last name was. And you can't fuck with him. So the two are standing on opposite sides of the room, looking at each other, and they realize that their families hate each other. That Romeo's mom and dad have a feud going on with Juliet's family. And Juliet's family has a problem with Romeo. Well, that was the first connection in the story. See, that's how the story begins. When you're reading a book or a story or anything else or trying to interpret something, you go to the beginning, you see how the introduction is written, and then it takes its flow from there. So Romeo and Juliet were not necessarily star-strong lovers. They were two people who were rebelling against their families. See? Think about it. Romeo's attraction to Juliet, other than the fact that she was pretty, was that she belonged to a family that was at odds with his. So, What better way to strike out at his parents than to hook up with Juliet? And as the story goes on and they find it out, and everybody's all upset over this relationship between Romeo and Juliet. It's got to end. And then when it does end, and it ends in the death of both children, due to hatred for other people, caused their children to die. And their attraction to one another was for the benefit of the feud that they were wanting to put an end to. Understand? Now, kind of adds a different perspective if you stop to think about it. As Romeo just didn't meet Juliet and they fell in love, and in the end they die. It's a romantic tragedy. No, it's a story of rebellion against your family and the consequences of the rebellion. It's a story of feuding with families and the consequences of that. All right? Hate can take the very thing that you love the most away from you. That's the story of Romeo and Juliet. Now you say, how is that connected to AMC? Well, to begin with, you may have never thought of Romeo and Juliet as being a story of rebellion against your parents and against your family, and it eventually leads to their death. But the beginning of the story is what's important. Now let's talk about the AMC saga. Okay? Let me ask you a question. In every book, Shakespeare particularly, there's always a villain. There's always somebody in the story that's evil, and the whole story is about putting the evil down and triumphing over that evil. Same thing here in AMC. Only thing is, we got the beginning of the story fucked up. You have to take a look at this play from a different perspective, people. Alright? Let me ask you a question. In this story, this saga of AMC, who's the devil? Ken Griffin. Really? Is Ken Griffin really the devil? Or is he who's being portrayed in the story as being the evil person that steals everybody's money? No. We were painted a picture of a villain at the beginning of this saga. It was pushed by YouTubers that Ken Griffin is the devil. Okay? Is he the devil? No. Susquehanna is shorter AMC, and Susquehanna has more to hide than even Citadel. So why has the focus been on Ken Griffin? Well, every story, when they put this story together, and I mean the AMC saga, when they put it together, they knew you would need an enemy to hate. You would have to have an enemy that you combated against. Good versus evil, and we're gonna win. See? But is Ken Griffin really the most powerful devil on the chessboard right now? No. It's Susquehanna. But nobody talks about Susquehanna. Nobody's done a forensic investigation into Susquehanna to find out their finances, find out what they're hiding, find out what have they done to our stock market. Why? Because we were painted a villain. We were hand-fed a villain. Now, does that mean Ken Griffin is not a devil? No, he is. But now they're changing the story on us, people. Now, like I've told y'all in the past, Ken Griffin is going to be painted as the great American hero. I expected him soon to become a whistleblower. And then I seen him on TV and he's talking about the woke and how we have to get the woke shit out of our schools. Nobody disagrees with that. So then if you don't disagree with that, then you're agreeing with Ken Griffin. And then he buys the Constitution. Then he supports Ron DeSantis' campaign and so forth. And nothing points to Ken Griffin in the story. Just what we've been told. And you say, well, wait a minute, we've uncovered a lot of shit. You've uncovered a lot of shit because that's the devil they gave us. I'm telling you, there's a bigger devil than Ken Griffin. There's another person out there who's more powerful than Ken Griffin. How do I end this video? It's simple, people. Perspective. If you thought Romeo and Juliet was simply the story about two kids who fell in love and couldn't live without each other and eventually killed themselves, you've had it wrong. All right? It's about two teenagers who were rebelling against their families. Just like I said in the beginning of the story. Now, again, I said we've been painted a villain. Somebody is controlling the narrative here, is my point. And we've been handed a villain just like every story has. And we have a mission just like every hero has in the story. But the story that they've read to us and they cause us to watch these YouTubers and believe them, come on, man. Do you understand? There's no way they could have gotten some of this information on Ken Griffin without it being an inside job. You think your favorite YouTuber's sitting at home, busy with his life schedule, but he has time to go look in Brazil for fucking synthetics. No, they were handed that. Get mad if you want. I don't give a fuck. Because I've sat across from people who's cried to me about how much money they have invested in this play, and it breaks my fucking heart because I am in no ways close to touching what some of y'all have got invested in AMC. But what I do have is the common sense and the logic to step outside of the box and say, somebody's handing us this story. We need to start looking at this. Who is telling us the story? And when we can figure that out, we'll know the whole story. Or as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. But here's it. Here it is in a nutshell. If you continue to believe what's being spoon-fed to us by some of your favorite YouTubers, you're going to lose everything. We've already lost half when he cut Ape out like he did, and half our money was gone. And look at it now. If you're going to survive this play, people, if you're going to get your money back out, you have to stop believing the narratives that they're telling us and step outside the box and say, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that Fortune magazine right here, or Fortune website now, did an article called AMC may create its own cryptocurrency and NFTs in a nod to its meme stock investors? And it was written on November 8th. The first article I showed you was November 11th in a past video. This one's a couple days before it. And if you read it, it tells you the beginning. AMC Entertainment Holdings, the world's largest theater chain, is exploring the creation of its own cryptocurrency in a fresh nod to the meme investors who have seen its stock soaring over 2,000% this year. The next paragraph, the company is also talking with Hollywood studios about creating commemorative non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, related to major films. And in the next paragraph, it talks about the popcorn that'll be sold in stores. Are you trying to tell me that 2 out of 3 of these have come to pass, but the third one, the AMC getting involved in creating its own cryptocurrency, is a far reach? The fact is, nobody wants to believe it, therefore they don't investigate it. They'd rather believe and drag this shit on, and people are suffering. Step outside your box. Question, rather, did they receive money from this? And I ain't even gonna give the motherfucker the pleasure of calling his name, his video about me. And he takes 2 minutes to say that I'm wrong, and the rest of the video, he talks about Ken Griffin, the synthetics, And he goes to cursing. Motherfucker! Motherfucker! He's angry. No, he's not angry, people. And he had to change his name because nobody was buying what he was selling when he was called this. So he changed his name to this to get a fresh start on trying to convince y'all. Again, King Griffin's the devil. He's the enemy. When there's somebody behind the scenes, there's a wizard behind the scenes pulling the fucking levers. And I love y'all. Be blessed. I do what I do because I love y'all. You're like family to me. And it's not the Lou kind of family. I've sat with y'all. I've talked to y'all. I've listened to y'all's stories. And it eats me alive. And if we can do anything to get some of y'all out of this play with your fortunes intact, then that's my goal of this channel. I have no other alternative. Not clicks, not views. Because I could if I wanted to. We'll talk about that in the next video. Manipulation. Manipulation. Quit being spoon-fed this shit. Start questioning people. Alright? If you're going to if we're going to pull out of this tailspin that we're in and soar, you're going to have to quit being spoon-fed this bullshit YouTubers, even your favorite ones, are feeding you. And I'm going to talk about manipulation and the aspects of manipulation that they're using on you, not me, because I see it as plain as day. And I'll talk to y'all in the next video. Love you. Be blessed.
Cold red, there's been a glitch in the matrix. They out here wildin' and it's too much, I can't take it. Red pill, blue pill, my mind knew they were shaping.